Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this evening's committee of Charlwood Borough Council's Plans Committee. Yes, so we're all ready to go, Ms. Dobson. Thank you. So welcome to this meeting of the Plans Committee on Thursday, the 23rd of January 2025 for Charlwood Borough Council. Please could I ask everyone present to please turn off your mobile phones or switch them to silent to ensure the meeting is distraction free. And would you do this now, please? May I remind all those present that this meeting is being live streamed to the Council's YouTube channel and that by attending the meeting, you are giving your consent to being filmed. A notice with further information has been provided in the public gallery at the back. Under the openness of local government bodies regulations, people may also film or record this meeting, and this is outside the Council's control. For those watching the live stream, the Planning Officer's presentations have been published on the website for those who wish to view and can be found on the agenda page for Plans Committee for the 23rd of January 2025. We have received a late request to speak from Councillor Jane Lenny as an objector who wishes to speak as a resident on application P/21/24/2 land off Hathern Road, Shepshed. Are committee members happy to accept this request? If so, could I have a show of hands, please? Thank you. No objections, no abstentions. Thank you. Secondly, I have also received an apology from Councillor Popley, who was unable to attend the meeting this evening. He has also called in application P/21/24/2 land off Hathern Road, Shepshed. He has requested that I read out a statement on his behalf, and this I am happy to do. Could I see a show of hands, please, if the committee is agreeable? Thank you. And thirdly, on the same application, Councillor Roberts has a late request to speak on behalf of Shepshed Town Council, and this is also on application P/21/24/2 land off Hathern Road, Shepshed. Are we all happy to agree that Councillor Roberts should speak? Could I see a show of hands? Thank you, that is agreed. And now I would like to welcome Mr. Max Howarth, who is our legal advisor for the evening. Nice to see you again, Mr. Howarth. Right, item 1 on the agenda. Ms. Dobson, have we received any apologies, please?
I confirm we've received no apologies.
Thank you. The minutes of the previous meeting, item 2. Is the committee happy to confirm as a correct record the minutes of the meeting held on the 12th of December 2024, which was adjourned and reconvened on the 9th of January 2025? Is everyone agreed that we should accept those minutes? Thank you. Councillor Infield, are you abstaining? Thank you. Would you wish your abstention to be recorded? Thank you. I will sign the minutes at the end of the meeting. Thank you.
Madam Chairman, I wasn't at the meeting, so I just
You're also abstaining?
stayed in, yeah.
Thank
For
you.
that reason.
Right. The minutes of with those exceptions, the minutes of the previous meeting have been confirmed as a correct record, and I will sign the minutes at the end of this meeting. Item 3, questions under committee procedure 12.8. Ms. Dobson, have we received any questions?
I confirm no questions have been received.
Thank you. 4, disclosures of pecuniary and personal interests. Ms. Dobson, have we received any disclosures of interest, please?
I confirm I've not received any disclosures in advance of the meeting.
Thank you. So, members, are there disclosures of interest that members wish to make now? Councillor Lenny.
Yes, I wish to declare that on application P/21/2424/2, Land off Haven Road, Shepshed, I am a speaker on this item.
Thank you, Councillor Lenny. Anyone else with any disclosures of interest to make? Thank you. Right, we come to item 5, planning applications. Item 5A, number P/21/2424/2, Land off Haven Road, Shepshed. Councillor Lenny is now going to move to the gallery. Mr. Worley, I understand that you are going to present for us. So we'll let, Councillor Lenny has taken her seat. So when you're ready, Mr. Worley, please.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Good evening. So first application this evening, Homes Inn on a condition applied to a permission back in 2014 in relation to, but not at, and I'll explain that in a moment, to a large housing proposal on the east side of Shepshed. The condition required that all the way further east where Haven Road, Shepshed, turns into Shepshed Road, Haven, and joins the other roads in Haven, that some improvements were made to the junction. It's part of the crossroads there, right in the middle of Haven. So just a bit of geography first. This is the actual housing site, as I say, on the edge of Shepshed. But what is it, about a mile down the road in the middle of Haven is where traffic heading east pops out and joins the A6, let's say right in the heart of the village. And it was here, there's a closer view, that's all. It was here that they were required by a condition to do these works, which was simply to create filters left and right to allow queuing side by side for, well, you can see there, maybe 6 or 8 cars rather than single file. And they're proposing to be alleviated of that requirement, having applied to remove this condition where the requirement was created from in the first place. So the reason for this is that when the paperwork was compiled for the application back in 2014, it obviously speculated about traffic flows in the future, including how they might increase. But it transpired in 2022, they hadn't grown in the way that they anticipated in 2013, not least because of matters like COVID and indeed other roadworks in the sort of wider geography. And therefore the figures that they were expecting to see haven't materialised. In fact, road usage figures actually came down over that period. And if you want the nitty-gritty stats around that, you can see that at paragraph 9.14 of the report. So that in turn means there's no justification, well, no need basically, for the access to be improved because it won't be getting any worse. And that in turn, in the planning world that we operate in, means that we're no longer able to demonstrate that that traffic conditions would become severe. We hear this bit of the NPPF all of the time, paragraph 116, don't we? Which is required if you're going to insist that works are necessary. So to our mind, the whole house of cards tumbles down because the basis on which it was built has not materialised. So on that basis, we propose approval of this application. That condition would fall away if that was what you were to agree to. But this is dealing with an old consent, and if it was granted, it would create a new replacement consent. And we need to be really careful about what that means for the conditions, because they were all written at their time, in the moment. Many of them are future tense, but this development's been implemented, been finished for some time now. So we would need to go through them all and cherry pick which ones still apply and which ones need to be imposed in a different way now. Some will have dropped by the wayside altogether. You know, give us details of your materials, no longer applies because they're built. But others have a longer life and that they still apply in a different way. And very much likewise with the 106 agreement, there was a whole host. It's one of the biggest Section 106 agreements I've seen. There was a whole host of requirements of it, and they would just be lost if there was a new permission. So we need a mechanism to reinstate those that still apply, basically. Again, some have fell by the wayside because they're fulfilled, paying money for schools, whatever. But some are similarly longer term, like maintenance of landscape, for example. So the recommendation is couched in these terms. So it's subject to that rolling forward in the appropriate way of the Section 106, and in a similar fashion, really, rolling forward and adapting the conditions from the original permission so that they work in the context that we're now in.
Thank you, Mr. Worley. We come to our speakers then, and our first speaker is Councillor Jane Lenny, who is speaking as a resident of Shepshed. Would you like to come forward, please, Councillor Lenny?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. You're doing the blurb.
You don't need us to tell you the drill, do you? So when you're ready to start, please, Councillor Lenny.
Thank you. Right. This condition 16 under the application shows that traffic flows decreased between 2013 and summer 2022, which Leicestershire Highways Authority now thinks that we haven't got a problem there. 2022 is not up to date. We're in 2025 now, and 2022 was very much within the COVID area for working from home in those days. The peak traffic from Shepshed to the A6 is much heavier now, and it's not unusual in peak morning hours for the queue to reach 1,200 metres, which is a lot more than the 19 cars which are predicted on the little diagrams that the highways people gave as a prediction. Floods and delays on the M1, which have been numerous lately, have also caused even more traffic through Hathern Road in Shepshed and on Shepshed Road in Hathern. In 2022, Persimmons claimed that the Garendon Sue would make enough traffic then to warrant an improvement to this junction. But as I pointed out at the time, none of them need to go 2 miles out of their way to use Shepshed Road to try to get to the A6. As a matter of interest, Persimmons have other conditions under this application that haven't been adhered to. The first one is condition 7, which is tree and hedgerow protection. Under their own biodiversity plan, they were supposed to and agreed to protect the hedgerows, and they ripped up the entire hedgerow next to the brook, which is almost 100 yards long. The brook now runs too high when it rains. It's threatening the water voles and the nesting birds that used to be in it. The brook is also, because it runs too fast now because of the lack of protection, has made the gambions on the side of the Black Brook to repair, which keep the banks protected. They've all collapsed several years ago, and despite phone calls, they've never done anything about it. Condition 27, the scheme of public art, was supposed to be installed in 2018. There's nothing. And they also varied condition 5 on the original application by reducing affordable housing. This firm has got history and it's not very nice, and I believe that if we keep giving in to them, they're just going to keep doing the same over and over again all over our borough.
Thank you, Councillor Lenny. Could we have Councillor Roberts, please? And Councillor Roberts is here representing Shepshed Town Council. You have 3 minutes, Councillor Roberts, as you know, so when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. First things first, I'm here to speak in my capacity as Shepshed Town Councillor for the ward I represent, which is Shepshed East. There are 15 Shepshed Town Councillors, and Shepshed is the second largest town within Charnwood Borough. This development is a development of 270 houses. If each one of those houses has 2 cars, that's 500 cars at least in just this one development. We're talking about the A6. The A6 junction links Hathern to Shepshed and also Kegworth, and it will also involve Stonebow Village. Whether they use it or not is up to the residents there, but Stonebow Village is also a new parish in its own right, and it is not small. I'm very concerned about condition 16 of application P/21/24/24/2 being removed. I fully appreciate that the figures have decreased, but I would like to reiterate that they were in 2022, and that was during the tail end of the COVID pandemic when people were working from home. The applications that Shepshed has been getting haven't been sort of 15 houses or 50 houses. We're talking about 270 homes being built. It will have an impact on not just Shepshed. We're talking about the next village along, which is Hathern. This is their junction. And as a town council, we're very concerned about access out of Shepshed to Hathern to Loughborough. I'm concerned majorly about the ongoing removing of conditions by Persimmon regarding this development. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. And now, as we agreed earlier, I will read Councillor Poplar's statement. Chair and members of the Planning Committee, I am sincerely sorry to be unable to attend in person tonight. Due to an ongoing personal family matter, I cannot be at this meeting to speak on my call-in, and I disclose the full extent of this family emergency to the planning officers and Mrs. Karen Widdowson previously. I did ask if this item could be deferred to another night when I would hope to be able to attend, but I also appreciate this item involves other parties. Therefore, I hope and believe you will appreciate that no offence is intended by my unavoidable absence at this said planning meeting. The reason I called this item in originally was due to a groundswelling of local sentiment from my constituents who believe that the removal of condition 16 of the original planning application was not in the spirit of the original planning application being granted. Both verbal and written communication on this topic was extensive and continues to be a point of debate. We have also discussed the matter at length during our town council meetings. The original application seemed to indicate the cost of improving the A6 junctions pertaining to the new estate would be at the cost of the developer. Whilst it is understood dialogue has been ongoing with the Highways Authority in respect of this matter, it is somewhat perplexing that attitudes regarding this condition 16 being now removed have been so unequivocally altered in such a relative short time frame. I have been made aware of the highway sentiments in relation to this mood change. A comment made by the Leicestershire Highways Authority in April 23 states as follows: the original TA predicted the junction to operate at a level exceeding its practical reserve capacity in the morning, which was then worsened with development, which was why mitigation was sought at the time. For a development that when first submitted intended to build upwards of 270 dwellings, that invariably means more car journeys in and out of the Kingsgate development, for which this was an original condition. According to 2021 data, there are an estimated trying to shorten it, 1.32 cars per dwelling in the East Midlands. We are finding more and more in Shepshed, original conditions on sites are being changed subsequently in a location with such high traffic movements each day. It seems odd the Highways Department no longer seeks to enforce a previously implemented condition of approval. Therefore, I request the Planning Committee ask that a previously granted condition of approval on an obligation is adhered to. And then it's thanks from Councillor Popley for listening. I have tried, it was quite a long statement, I have tried to abbreviate it, but I hope I've caught all the essential points that Councillor Popley wanted to make. Thank you. Mr. Worley, do you want to respond to any point raised by any of the speakers? Please.
Yes, if I may, Chair, through you. Okay, right. I'm not quite sure where to turn next, because listen to the speakers. Councillor Jenny said the traffic is much heavier now, but Councillor Roberts says that she appreciates that the figures have increased substantially. So I don't know which of those statements is right. I went around in 2014 to have any personal insight anyway. What I do know is that neither of those statements are articulated in evidence. So we've got the only evidence we have on this application is that provided by the applicant, which has received endorsement from the Highway Authority. So my advice to the committee would be that in all cases like this, that if we're going to go against the position of the local highway authority, we're quite entitled to do so, but we need to have evidence to form a basis on which to do so. And we don't have such evidence. We have the statements made, but no statistics, none that relate to the capacity of this junction and whether the levels that people are describing still resulting in being overloaded, and none to then show that that's severe or not, as the case may be. So if you're attracted by the arguments that the goalposts haven't changed in the way that the applicant suggests, my suggested course of action would be to actually defer this application. It's been around with us for 3 years, so I don't think there's any great pain arising from a further deferment. and use that time to commission somebody to do further studies and see whether it throws up evidence to back up the points that have been made.
Thank you, Mr. Worley. Right, I have hands going up, so if you'll bear with me. Have Councillor Charles? Councillor Corey Leslie, Councillor Fryer, Councillor Infield, Councillor Smidovitz, Councillor Stunt, and Councillor Taylor-Durham. That's 7 waiting to speak. Right, Councillor Charles, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think the officer sort of got to where I was going. Obviously, this application is dependent on the volume of traffic. As we don't have any current information, it seems sensible to perhaps defer this, ask for a report giving accurate information, and then the committee could make an informed decision on the application. So that's my comment. Thank you, panel.
Thank you very much, Chair. Firstly, I agree with that, what Councillor Charles has just said. I think that's worthwhile. I did have a few questions. I've got a small handful. First one is, so this application has come to us because the applicant has said, look, you know, we've got some evidence here that we don't need to do this anymore. And the Highways Authorities have looked and said, all right, okay then. And that is what it is. But we've also got sort of alongside that, the Highways Authority, bigger picture, seeking a SIL, which we've heard a great deal about over the last few months. Obviously, it's a bit of an older application. So how does it interact with the SIL? And is there any scope for us to ask for a contribution towards that as part of the S106 for this particular application we've got here? Where do we stand with that? That's my first question.
Yeah, apologies for the abrupt answer, but there's no prospect of that because we're dealing with something, an obligation in the past, not the future. So, you know, the SIL will, if we make it, the SIL will take on a particular day in the future, let's say September for the sake of argument, and everything after that is caught by it. But stuff in the past, and this is many years in the past, isn't affected by it.
Okay, understood. It seems a little odd for the Highways Authority to say we don't need this bit of infrastructure. We do need infrastructure in the future, but that is what it is. How does this interact with the new MPPF? Had we not had that published in December, would we still be looking at this application now just as we are, or has that in some way encouraged this?
I think it would be the same. The paragraph I referred to, 116, has been in the MPPF for many, many years. I can't vouch that it was in the very first MPPF in 2012 because my memory is not good enough. But it was certainly in the last version and the version before that, just had a different paragraph number. The words were exactly the same. It still set this threshold of severe. So not nice to have, not a preference, not to ease the situation. Severe, meaning without it, you'd be refusing things.
Understood. Okay. There were 28 conditions on the original S106 and only 8 here. I may have misunderstood something you said during the presentation. Am I right to think that if we accept this application, that all of those 28 conditions, and I appreciate some of them may not be relevant anymore, but I'd be surprised if it was 20 of them that weren't relevant. Are they all completely gone, or like how's that work?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, sorry, I obviously wasn't very clear in introduction. So what would happen, or what does happen when you grant applications of this nature, is that it grants a whole new planning permission that replaces the one that's gone before. And therefore, we need to be very careful that those conditions we still need get built into this new permission if it was granted. And the same applies with the 106, by the way. What makes this one a bit more complicated than that is that a number of those conditions have been perfectly satisfactorily met now, or set aside. Councillor Lenny said gave a couple of examples where they've already been set aside. So we need to be really particular that we reinstate only those that are still relevant, and that they're reinstated, meaning their wording to suit the circumstances as they are now, which is a completed development. They were written before any development had taken place, so it was all future tense, but now it's finished. So it's about retaining what we've got, and past tense and then present tense.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And we're happy that 8 is enough, I assume. My promised last question, and it is related to what Councillor Lenny said when she was speaking. So should the developers already reneged on some of the S106 agreements, or set them aside, as you put it, on P14 stroke 1687 stroke 2? Can you explain a bit more of the history behind that? What was set aside? Why? Because obviously we're dealing with, even if this is accepted, and we'll decide that shortly. It's always a bit controversial striking S106 things like this. So I would appreciate if you could give us a little bit of clarity about that.
Could I intervene there? I don't want to cut discussion short, Councillor Lesley, but there are a number of other people wishing to speak. So with your approval, I would like to move on to other councillors and then come back to you to have a wider, longer question to your, a longer, wider response to your issue on the history of the site. So are you happy with, thank you.
Fine by me, Chair.
Thank you. So Councillor Fryer, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. It's one of the very complicated ones. I was going to say exactly, well, very similar to Councillor Charles. It has been put forward to us that we may wish to propose that it's deferred to get more up-to-date information before we make the decision. I'm not sure whether Councillor Charles put it forward as a proposal. If it was a proposal, I will second it. If it wasn't a proposal, I will propose it. That we go by the officer's recommendation that it's deferred, and therefore we would be revisiting this, and I think that would make far more sense to do it that way for further information to come forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me deal with half of that now. So, Councillor Charles, did you actually propose that we defer?
I'm happy to propose that we defer.
Right. Are you happy to second them, please, Councillor Fryer? Thank you. We'll park that for the moment then, because I want to, it's important that, that we are open and we hear what everyone has to say. So thank you for that, Councillor Charles, Councillor Coyle-Lesley, Councillor Fryer, or Councillor Infield, please.
Right. So not only is the traffic data significantly out of date, as we've heard, but it's also been subject to a correction, COVID correction, which in my view makes it even more unreliable. So I'm supportive of the deferral. In this situation, can we not go back to the County Council and ask them to remeasure the traffic at the junction so that we have credible data on which we can make a proper decision when we come back to this?
Well, before Mr. Warder responds, I think there is perhaps something that members of the committee might like to consider. It is open to you to ask for an independent report, defer the decision, not for the Highways Agency, who I'm sure are very professional, to come back with figures, but perhaps in this case, you may wish to consider asking for an independent report to be made. Have I got that right, please, Mr. Worley?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I would suggest that's the way forward if this is where we're heading. I don't think the local highways authority would do that kind of work for us anyway. You know, they'll have their work programme on many different fronts, and they won't just drop it because we want them to count some traffic on our patch. So, but I think what the Chair means by independent, by the way, means it's commissioned by us, not by the developers. So we can have confidence in its impartiality.
Yeah, I accept that situation. Yeah.
So, sorry, I don't want to get bogged down in procedure, but Councillor Infield now, then, do you want to put an amendment to the original proposal for deferral that it is for an independent reassessment?
Yes, I'd be pleased to do that.
Thank you. Councillor Charles, Councillor Fryer, are you happy to accept that amendment? Should it come, yeah, could it come?
I am.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Smidovitz, please.
Thank you, Chair. Well, some of the questions I had have already been answered. I have concerns about the severity because I've been there with a recent one that's come through here, and it was way over, and the figures differed so much. It was just unbelievable. So I certainly go along with a deferral and another assessment. And my concern would have been who does that assessment, whether the developer picks the assessor, or whether when you said independent, we have a choice of different assessors. So I think that's a little bit of my cynicism coming out. Would tilted balance come into this? Is a question. Would it come down to tilted balance in the end? I'm happy to carry on and just put it in the mix, so that's not a problem. It's been a very long time in coming, so I'm certainly supportive of a fresh view. I don't accept that there will be less traffic at all with all the developments that are going on around the airport as well. It's a catchment area for people living there.
Madam Chairman, thank you.
So I've now added Councillor O'Neill to the list. So to come, we have Councillor Snort, Councillor Taylor-Durrant, and then Councillor O'Neill. So Councillor Snort, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yeah, a lot of the things have been said, so I won't take much time. I think the MPPF was updated. It did talk about highway safety after that in terms of not severe impacts. The criteria that they used, it seems a bit flimsy to me in terms of one day, 7 till 10 and 16 to 19. Yeah, just ask officers, is there any criteria that says what that should really be? I think in the past we've had several sort of days, if you like, of criteria or assessment going through that. So it seems a bit flimsy in terms of that. So it would be nice to know, I think, in future what that is. And certainly the time allotted, and is there any sort of criteria that is actually measured around that? And I do think it's, again, a bit flimsy when we look and say it's been pre-COVID and it's taken into account. So again, it would be nice to see what detail that is, because no doubt it's going to come up again. And finally, the Councillor Lenny mentioned three, I think, about the schemes. The public art was one that hadn't been achieved, and it didn't seem to be in the actual recommendations again to make sure that's done. So I'm not sure whether they need to be put in, the ones that she raised. So thank you, Madam Chairman.
Councillor Snort, do you want to respond now, Mr. Worley, or? Thank you. Okay, well, that brings us then to Councillor Taylor-Durrant, please.
Thank you, Chair. I've just noticed that the condition actually says prior to occupation of the 150th dwelling on the site. Do we know when the 150th dwelling was occupied?
Thank you. Councillor O'Neill, please.
Thank you, Chair. I came to this meeting thinking this was a pretty straightforward case, and there'd be points backwards and forwards, and I'd come to a decision having heard those. But actually, the more I listen, the more subtle, shall we say, the whole situation is. I would hesitate on overturning decisions made by previous planning committees or plans committees, but this is what we've been asked to do. And the only way we can really do that is to have some up-to-date data, which we don't seem to have. I support the idea of an independent assessment, independent made by Charnwood Council. My question is, who would pay for it? Presumably it would be Charnwood Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Neil. Mr. Worley, you're now going to respond to, are you going to include Councillor Corey Losley's final question in your response about the history of the... Yeah.
If I may, Chair, it was very related to what Councillor Snart also asked, so could probably do those in two birds with one stone, as it were.
Thank you. And could I also ask for clarification about the term independent? Who gets to choose the independent assessor? And at this stage, Mr. Howells, do you have any comments or issues you'd like to raise? It's rather complex.
Not present, Chair. I'll wait until the planning officer responds to the questions if any issues arise.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I will indeed start with Councillor Corey Losley's question. So my understanding from reading, getting familiar with the file and the history is that there's been no problems with the Section 106. Every obligation has been met at the relevant points in time. I understand that that's not the case with the conditions. The example, and I think it's a sole example, that Councillor Lenny raised was about breaching a condition that required hedges to be retained, and then approaching us to remove that requirement after the event, so which was agreed. So it corrected, for want of a better word, itself in the end. I've answered the point about employing the county council to do this this survey work. And as I said, I don't think that's very likely. I think we've probably got choices that we can direct towards. One would be truly independent, which is that we would commission an engineering firm to do this work. They would be paid for and answerable by Charnwood Borough Council, and the applicants would have nothing to do with it. County Council probably would, because we'd want their comment on the results, but they're independent like us as well. An alternative like to this, which, and I'm already sensing from the debate, maybe less palatable, would be to ask the developers to do an update of their work. And again, but more importantly, the Local Highways Authority would then review that and see what kind of results it delivered. On the question of the tilted balance, I believe the answer to be no. I can't quite see how this application will get us there. I suppose if it hangs around long enough, even our more up-to-date policies become out of date at some point, and that throws us backwards. But speaking for the here and now, no, we're not in that world for once, which is nice. The length of the traffic counts, apologies, I'm going to have to give half an answer to this. Yeah, the methodologies for things like this are set out in in professional documents of the profession concerned, in the same way that you have standards for, off the top of my head, Landscape Institute rules around visual impact and environmental health methodology towards noise measurement and things like that. Well, they have a particular methodology to follow for things like this as well. And sort of in the background here is that the Highways Authority has checked the depth of the survey work that went on here, and obviously that's within behind their comments saying they're happy that it was enough. I can't tell you what it says, that's all. I just know that those standards exist. On the question about the 150th dwelling, I can't answer that one either, other than we passed it a long, long time ago, because as I understand it, the whole development, all 300 have been complete for a good while. Who would pay is, as we just explored, if it's going to be us, it's our initiative and we would have to pay. And that's, on the other hand, how we would ensure, Councillor O'Neill's point at the very end, that it's truly independent. It'd be ours.
Right, Councillor Smithovitz is asking to come back, so is Councillor Fryer, and I have a request now to speak from Councillor Matthews, and Councillor Snort. I'll take you in that order. So, Councillor Smithovitz, please.
It was just to say, with the independent assessment, could they also not do it during the school holiday period and the July fortnight where holidays take place?
I'm sure we can make a note of that. Thank you. Councillor Fryer, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just, from my own personal point of view, and our legal advisor and the officer may also, we should not make decisions on the question of cost. We are here as planning. We do not get involved in this is my view, my experience, we do not get involved in, well, that shouldn't cost that and we should pay this. We have requested, or we may request when it comes to the vote, an independent assessment of the highways from Charnwood Borough Council asking. As to cost, we mustn't make a decision on it's going to cost this and it's going to cost that. I might, the officers may want to make a clarification on that, but it's the same if something goes, we send something to appeal. It is not the problem of this this planning committee. I just wanted to make reassured that I am on the right track.
Thank you, Councillor Fryer. Yes, it is a very good point, and I'm sure that our officers will bear that in mind. It's going to be an independent assessment and cost what it costs. Councillor Matthews, please.
Hi, yeah, I just wanted to, more out of curiosity than anything, one of my questions, my thunder's been stolen by Councillor Smithovitz a little bit on when would the assessment take place. But I'm quite, I know Councillor Fryer has touched on the fact that we shouldn't get involved with costs or anything, and I fully agree with that, but I'm curious how much it will cost the council. Is any kind of figure could be put on that it's more out of interest than anything really, but I do believe that an independent assessment must must be the direction of travel that we go down.
Thank you, Councillor Matthews. Do you want to respond to that, Mr. Worley, or shall I take Councillor Snott's? Yeah, Councillor Snott.
Thank you.
Sorry. Councillor Snott,
Thank you,
please.
Madam Chair. Just picking up on the point that I raised about the criteria, and I think it would be helpful when the independent is done. It's not just one day; it will be across a time that suggests that it's probably a week or whatever, because actual levels of traffic do alter in the days going ahead. So I think it would be, and I still believe that it's a bit flimsy just doing one day on a Wednesday. It seems wrong to me, and I still don't know whether there's any criteria around that, how you should actually look at the traffic levels, and certainly the timing, if there is any criteria for the timing to be involved with it. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Snott. I believe Mr. Howarth would like to comment now.
Thank you, Chair. I think just following on from Councillor Fryer's comments, Councillor Fryer is quite right. It's not unreasonable for councillors to inquire as to the cost of the independent assessment, but you need to make it quite clear that it's not a material plan consideration, so it has no bearing whatsoever on your decision tonight.
Thanks again, Chair. Sorry, everyone, another half an answer. So on the cost of it, obviously we have to follow the council's procedural rules, which means going out for 3 quotes and for something, well, I'm guessing even that really, because if it got more expensive, there's other things you have to do. But I think for this, it would probably mean going out for 3 quotes and taking the best, unless it had like qualitative shortcomings that we couldn't tolerate.
Right, colleagues, are we ready to go to the vote? Thank you. Right, sorry, did you want to speak?
No, I'm just waiting to.
Right, we have an amendment. The proposal before us is that we defer this application for an independent assessment of the situation. It has been proposed by Councillor Charles. It has been seconded by Councillor Fryer.
Yeah, can I suggest an amendment to that? Can I suggest an amendment to that following some of the comments raised about scoping of the assessment to be carried out? Yeah.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Sorry for the confusion. Just wanted to say, if members do want to request certain things to be done as part of that independent assessment, that can form part of the resolution tonight. So the resolution will need to include that it's not carried out during school holidays, that it's carried out over a certain period, if that's what members want us to get independently assessed.
Can see lots of nodding heads. Has that actually got to be put to the vote? I mean, no, I'm going to ask for clarification here. We're voting for. Is that what we're voting on?
Insofar as I'm aware, Chair, I think the correct approach would be for the councillors who put forward the motion and seconded the motion to be asked whether or not they're willing to amend their motion to include that scoping that's going to be provided to the independent expert.
Councillor Fryer.
I'm happy to amend my seconding. And also, I would like, I don't know whether this is useful or not, is when it goes out, that we would leave it to the head of planning, director of planning, and the chair, that when we go to ask for tenders, that the things that have been raised are within the tender document.
I think that's fine, Chair, but I think the councillor who tabled the motion needs really to amend their motion first before then the seconder does.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'm happy to amend to allow that decision to go to head of planning and yourself. That's acceptable.
Sorry, Chair. I don't want mean to be fussy. I think we just need to make it absolutely clear as to what the motion is. So, if it is the case that we're asking for, we're stating the committee wants to defer the item for an independent assessment to take place, and then to set the scope for that independent assessment. So, the times it's going to be undertaken, the duration of the assessment, those sort of matters, really.
Yeah, happy with that, Chair.
Agreed.
Colleagues, are you all clear about what we are voting for now? Because this is an important decision. Councillor Stark, please.
Legal advisor saying that we need to more be specific about the exact things that we need to put in there. So, for instance, it was over a period of time, probably 1 week or whatever. It was not on school holidays. It was not certain other things that were raised. So I think we need to be more specific in terms of our. And the only other thing, I don't know whether our legal advisor would be okay to say that we've got the parameters of it and leave it up to the officers to actually put that forward then for us. I don't know whether that could be acceptable.
That we put out the parameters, but the final tender goes to the head of planning and the officers in conjunction with the chairman.
Oh, thank you, Chair. So just to clarify, as I understand it, the proposal is to defer the application subject to an independent assessment, but to delegate the scope of the independent assessment to officers in consultation with Chair of Plans Committee. Is that right?
We're all happy? Sorry? I don't want to be pedantic about this, but this is an important decision. We need to know, we need to be exact about what we're voting for. Councillor O'Neill, please.
Thank you, Chair. What's crossed my mind is, given the importance of the decision, do the parameters need to be incorporated in the resolution? In other words, do we, as the committee, need to be specific about it's not at a weekend, it's not, at a bank holiday? You know what I mean? Do those parameters need to be incorporated in the resolution? That's what I'm asking.
So I think there are two options here. You can either delegate that to the head of planning and growth in consultation with the chair, so we can come up with a list. I've written down everything that the members have said tonight, so we can come up with something and put it forward and get it agreed with the chair of plans committee, or you can specify now what you want that scope to be.
Could you read what's on your list, please?
So as I understand it, I've got that the members don't want the survey carried out during the school holidays, and that you'd like it to take place across a week rather than one day. And I think they were the two matters that were discussed.
Not the July fortnight.
Thank you.
I think, as you've said, Chair, I think this is a very important that we get this absolutely right. I feel we just need a few minutes just to say, this is what we want on these days of the week, at these times, and be as specific as we possibly can be with our request, just so that we know that we're getting exactly what we're asking for, rather than possibly maybe not getting exactly what we're asking for, so that we can then make our decision as informed as and as accurate as we possibly can.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Councillor Matthews, absolutely. I mean, Mr. Worley humorously suggested Christmas Day, yeah. If I was a hotshot lawyer, which I'm not, I would say, well, why can't I do it on Christmas Day? Thank you.
If I may say so, with everybody, the easiest way to do it is, as our officer has just explained, you give responsibility to the chair of planning in conjunction or in consultation with chair, which at this point is me. I think I know what the committee would want, and it's certainly what I would want. I would want to see this survey, for instance, taking place during the working week. I don't want to see it done on a bank holiday Monday or on a quiet Sunday afternoon when it's pouring down with rain. We need to know what is happening at the busiest times of the day, when the impact of this is going to be at its greatest. Now, if you have enough confidence in me to do that, that would be the simplest way forward. If you don't have that confidence in me, there's no reason why you should, you can make a much more prescribed list. I'm overwhelmed by your confidence, Councillor Smidovic.
Sorry, Chair. Perhaps the best approach would be to have a kind of hybrid recommendation. So you delegate authority to the head of planning in conjunction with yourself to make the decision in terms of instructing an independent assessor, but you would obviously set the parameters of that delegated authority by saying that whilst your delegating authority is subject to the parameters that the study is undertaken at certain times, it's undertaken in weekdays, non-public holidays or weekends, and it takes place in term time.
Yes.
I think the councillor who proposed will need to amend their motion to reflect that.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'm happy to amend my original to what you've just said there, Mr. Howarth.
Are you also happy to accept the amendment, Councillor Fryer? Amendment?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair.
And to let Ms. Tate finish writing so she gets it all down, and then we will go to the vote. Just chat amongst yourselves.
Thank you, Chair. So as Max said, it's to defer the application to carry out an independent assessment of the highway junction works to be delegated to the head of planning and growth in consultation with the chair, but to include the matters that you've already raised this evening, including no public holidays, no weekends. It's got to be carried out in term time, the 2 weeks in July. And yeah, I think that covers everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. We've got it all clear about what we're voting for. So all those in favour, please, let me see a show of hands.
It's unanimous, Chair.
No against? None against? No abstentions?
Absolutely,
Motion's
Chair.
carried.
It's carried, that's right. Thank you.
Thank you very much, colleagues. The motion has been carried and no abstentions, no votes. Thank you very much for that very difficult hour and 5 minutes. Thank you. Does anyone want to take a very short break at this point? Go on then. We'll take a short 5-minute break.
I haven't got anything to read.
Members, we come now to item 5B, P24/1244/2, land off Barkby Road, Queniborough. And Mr. Akram, I believe that you are going to take us through this. So when you're ready, please.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, all. This item 5B is for the erection of electricity substation to serve the approved residential development at land off Barkby Road. The application is referred to Plans Committee as the development is set outside the limits of Queniborough and within an area of local separation. And therefore, the application is contrary to the provisions of the development plan and is recommended for approval. This is a site location plan, and you've got the substation in red and the wider residential site in blue. In terms of site and surroundings and defined areas within the local plan, this is the aerial view, which shows Queniborough situated to the north. I don't know whether you can see my cursor. You've got Syston, settlement of Syston to the south. You've got the application site there, that red dot, which is a substation location. And the blue is a wider residential site. The Queniborough Industrial Estate, which is purple, which is defined as good employment land. And the light green area is an area of local separation. This is approximate site access into the site. And in terms of this is the approved layout for the residential as approved by the Reserve Matters application. This shows in terms of the context whereby the substation would be located compared to the wider residential development site. And it's adjacent to the access road to the north upon the entry from Barkby Road. A CGI image, it's an aerial view. Again, it's what's approved as part of the Reserve Matters scheme. And you've got the circle, red circle towards the south of the site where the substation location is. As far as the more detailed substation layout plan, this shows the context in terms of existing and proposed dwelling. So you've got the existing one, number 59, situated to the north, and the proposed bungalow situated to the west of the site. Members, just for information for members, that this, as part of Exeter's report, this is the revised plan. The only difference between the revised plan and what was within the Plans Committee report is the detailed landscaping, what was approved as part of the Reserve Matters application. This is the elevation and floor plans. It would be a brick-built building with a hip tile roof, and the floor plans show the internal layout of the electrical equipment within the building itself. This is a few CGIs to assist members in terms of the actual design and appearance of the development itself. You've got the substation building on the right-hand side of the primary access road into the site. This shows context in terms of the substation to the proposed bungalows on site. And this is just an aerial view that shows the roof forms of the actual development, the wider development and the substation. In terms of key considerations, these are set out within the committee report, which I can summarize within the conclusion. The application itself must be determined in accordance with the development plan unless material consideration indicate otherwise. The application seeks permission to erect a substation to serve the residential development, which benefits from extant outline and Reserve Matters permissions. The proposal is contrary to the provisions of the current and emerging development plan, as the substation is located outside the limits of development and within area of local separation. The weight that can be given to these policies is reduced because the wider site has extant permission for housing development. The proposed infrastructure in the form of substation is supported by other policies within the development plan and neighbourhood plan. The extant permission for housing on land, which includes the site, is a significant material consideration in favour of the application. There are also wider benefits for the delivery of new housing and its knock-on social, environmental, economic benefits from the extant residential permission, which also carries significant weight. There will be no harm to the character, appearance, or highway safety. There is a safeguarding condition in respect to amenity of residential occupiers of existing and proposed future dwellings. The recommendation put forward for members is to approve subject to condition as set out in recommendation A of Plans Committee report and extras report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Akram. Now, there are no speakers for this application, so I have Councillor Fryer, Councillor Matthews, Councillor Infield, Councillor Charles. Anyone else? So I'll take them in that order then. Councillor Fryer, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thank you very much to the office for the presentation. I would like to propose we go with officer's recommendation as laid out in the report and on the extras report for this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fryer. Councillor Matthews, please.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. It looked like a very good development. This, I'm very happy to second Councillor Fryer's recommendation there. Just quick regarding the substation, very attractive places for the younger generation to play with. What sort of security, in terms of how difficult would it be to break into for those that want to do that? What sort of doors are going to be locks, that kind of thing? How easy will it be? How safe will it be, in other words?
There's two folds in this. One is that you have National Grid as the actual regulatory operators, which would specify certain conditions and other things, which is outside the planning remit in terms of that. And the second is that there is quite sufficient landscaping being proposed around it as well, which would kind of deter certain points whereby you could actually possibly hang around in terms of trying to create anything in terms of any antisocial, other kind of measures. Yeah.
Yes, I'm happy to support the motion, but I'm slightly bemused that this has come to us because this is eating into the area of separation. Whereas, of course, when we saw from the figure, it's the housing estate that's approved that's really eating into the area of separation. I just wanted to make that point.
Thank you, Chair. Just a question of interest, really. We've had a few of these substations coming up, and we don't seem to have any information regarding the electromagnetic radiation that they emit. And I just wondered whether, you know, new MPPF and everything, whether that's something that might come forward to us, because there are quite a few reports linking EMF to cancer cases, and I'm, you know, just a concern out of interest. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Chair. As far as electromagnetic, there is certain guidance from, let's say, National Grid, which specifies substations close to residential properties, but often that guidance and the regulations fall outside the planning remit itself. As far as the NPPF is, there is certain guidance when it comes up to telecommunication, but not when it comes up to infrastructure. But also, there are also permitted development rights when it comes up to certain statutory undertakers actually undertaking this work, like National Grid. So on that aspect, there is certain kind of codes what they have to follow, which is the national codes, when it comes up to any kind of electromagnetic or any form of radiation.
Just very quickly, Chair, and forgive me for being a pedant. I'm just looking at the front page of the report. It says that the ward is Loughborough for this one. There's no parish. I don't think that's correct.
I was curious as to why this application comes up tonight. Why wasn't it just part of the original? Because I would have assumed that they would need to know.
Okay, I could expand on that. So what you have is you would have outline planning permission, which falls within the certain parameters of what they can do, which is a proposed description. So when it comes up to the reserve matters, it has to form part of what the boundaries, what the outline planning permission was. So for example, this planning application specified it was outline planning permission with access only, and he talked about drainage infrastructure. When it comes up to anything outside of that parameter itself, then that requires full planning permission. So in this instance, it's electricity substation.
I just hoped that it might be near the business end. We could have gone on the business end as opposed to on the next to housing. It's too late for it now, but that's what I would have hoped.
That usually, when it comes up to the design and the layout, that's usually where adjacent to main access roads, where the statutory undertakers would usually prefer the facility.
No one else waiting to speak. Well, we'll come to the vote then. We have Councillor Fryer that has proposed that we accept officer's recommendation in respect of this application, and Councillor Matthews has seconded this. So can I see a show of hands, please? All those in favour?
That's unanimous, Chair. So the motion is carried.
Thank you very much, and thank you all for your help and support this evening. We've made some good decisions in the end. Thank you very much. Wish you all a safe journey home as well. Hope the weather holds off for a bit.
Sorry, Chair, we've still got 2 items. We've still got 2 items, sorry, item 6 and item 7.
Oh, I do apologise because I've forgotten Councillor Monk's favourite bit of the planning evening, which is, well, no, we've got to go on a bit further. Item 6, Quarterly Enforcement Decisions Report, which is page 43, 46 of the agenda. Does the committee have any questions or comment? No. Councillor Monk says that you don't. Is she speaking for all of you?
Yeah.
So, are you, sorry, committee, are you happy to note the report, please?
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, let's put our hands up. Are you happy to note the report? Thank you. No abstentions, no against. Thank you. And now it's Councillor Monk's favourite bit. Item 7, list of applications determined under delegated powers. And this is page 47 to 73 of the agenda reports pack. Does anyone on the committee have any questions or comments, please? Councillor Smitovitz.
On page 54, it has Loughborough Nampanton, which is my ward, so I probably should declare an interest, but I'm not objecting, I'm just wondering a question. That has been proposed, and I didn't know anything about it in the first place, or I would have raised an objection or a concern. that the installation of electronic communications, the poles are being put up, it seems randomly. And I've had occasion to object twice because it's in the line of a vision coming straight out of somebody's sitting room window, where I was told the poles had to be on a boundary, on the boundary line between, say, two gates. So it would be helpful to know where these poles are actually going under delegated authority, because officers are making the decisions and I don't know if they go up and actually see where the poles are going. So we managed to get one moved in the past because it was complete line of vision, but it's the appropriateness of the placements is all I'm raising. So if officers could take that on board, I'd be appreciative.
Thank you, Chair. So just to let you know, these aren't actually planning applications, they're permitted development notifications. So the mast companies are just notifying us that they're putting in a mast under permitted development legislation. So we don't have a say in that. So which is why you won't be consulted on those. I can check though to see whether or not they do get listed on the weekly list, which you receive a copy of, so I can find that out for you.
Councillor Smidovitz, a question. Committee, are you happy to note with this report, please? Thank you. No abstentions, no against. So I say again, safe journey home and thank you for your support this evening.